So somebody pointed out to me that I had been misconfiguring the comparison study, and the reason I had had it set up funny originally was because in my chart settings, in the price axis, I'd had this enable left axis turned off. So the chart was trying to use the left axis, and when it couldn't, it was just overlaying it directly. And when you do enable the left axis and you let this study be in the left axis, then it attempts to line it up within the screen that you're on. So when you have auto set up, then the way the screen will reflow is based on it'll take both tickers and just reflow them as if they were both in there, which means it moves around a lot. But you can see a more one-to-one comparison. This is going to be the actual ticker. So for most people, they're probably going to be able to use the comparison study to do the one-to-one comparisons of things. But for me, I don't like the way it jumps around, and it's still not showing me the direct relative price differences candle per candle. Like, I mean, it's showing, over time, and if you zoom in on a specific area, then it'll line up a little bit better. But what I want to look at is for this particular candle, when you normalize for VWAP, I want to see the differences between them more directly. So if you're evaluating two sympathies that are more correlated, and you want to look at more like longer overall trends and see sort of how they're doing, you can shape that curve into your window so that it matches up how you want. But the whole point of Sympatico is to have a normalized per VWAP overlay. This is really confusing with the extra overlay in here, so let's take this out. But what I wanted it to do is have the chart show up with my differences directly in here. So what I can see from this is how my local price action on each of these candles is higher than the normalized, the VWAP normalization percentage here. And I can expect that there will be a correction at some point soon. Whereas with the direct overlaid comparison, it's harder to be able to divine that based on how it's laying out, because it's sort of random depending on your chart. I mean, it's just going to jump around as you move, and it's not fixed to anything. It's only fixed to the particular screen with the scale that you're in, and as you change scale, it's gonna jump around just because it's trying to place it within that. And I'm not even sure if it'll work if you try to make it something other than direct. I mean, at this point, it's just sort of all over the place where it's going to line up. Once you take it off of automatic, once you try to manually scale it. So I don't think I've entirely reinvented the wheel, but for I think most people's use cases, probably the comparison study will work if you have it set up right, unlike how I had it. But otherwise, I think I'm going to stick with this for a while, and I've been really enjoying playing with it, and I'm still going to release it, but I'm using it more for the comparisons candle per candle. So that may not work as well if you're trying to look at something like Tesla. Let's see what Tesla looks like with, because this is going to show you more directly probably what you want to see in something that's wildly different. Where like with Apple and ES, they track pretty carefully, or like Mara and Riot, anything that tracks pretty carefully is going to look pretty good. But if you try to have an overlay of things that are pretty different, it's just going to overlay it with the comparison study. Whereas with Sympatico, it'll actually try to map them together. So I mean, it's up to you to make sure that your sympathies have some sort of correlation. And if they do, this should actually show you a slightly better candle per candle where it is in relation to the underlying, because it's based on VWAP of the respective tickers. So what you're actually seeing is their own differences. So if something is far below VWAP, it's going to be a lot lower, because if the sympathy is above VWAP, then that difference is going to show up more pronounced. Whereas if you just overlay the tickers, you're going to, I mean, there's no relation between these other than just trying to stick them in the same window. But again, I think for 90% of what people are trying to do, that may be good enough. And this is really more geared towards people who want, just a candle by candle comparison to be able to see whether you're above or below your referent. So anyway, I thought that was interesting that I finally started using the comparison study properly, and I still don't like it. So I don't know. Once I'll push out Sympatico and hopefully get a few more people using it, and then get some feedback and see if anybody's finding it useful.